You think is it just us three here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Denise is on vacation.
Is Kendra the only other person?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Megan.
Yeah.
Is sick. Denise is on vacation and Mary's probably working.
See if I can send Kendra, chat. Kendra?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
We can.
Awesome. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen and then we'll have it all set up through over here. Thanks everyone for being accommodating. Oh, you have to set up the share screen, it looks like. So on that monitor,
Yep.
Jeannie, if you hit the button all the way at the bottom that says share, there's generally a little, yep, but I want you to select, there's like a little up button, I believe, where you can say, it like pulls up a drop down box where you can say, let any participant or all participants share or something like that, that you have to enable. Right there next to that same icon.
Yep. Multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Yes.
All right.
And then let me see if I can share now. Yep. So then I'll put the agenda up. Let me know if you see it.
Yep.
Awesome. That works because then we'll be able to see the numbers later. Thank you everyone for being accommodating. I apologize if we get interrupted by little friends today. But this is a park, right? So it'll be just in line with that. We have a quorum today with the four of us here. Mary is unable to attend. Denise is out of town and Megan is sick. So it will just be the four of us as mentioned. So we can get started. Start with any public comment. Nothing from anybody. Okay. And then reviewing of the minutes from the last meeting. The only comment I had is I think my name was my last name was misspelled at the top, or at least one point. So Ziskie. Other than that, I didn't see any changes. Did anybody else have any comments other than those that that Jeannie has or Tess has already reflected?
No, I'm good.
Then do we want to approve the minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as published.
With a spelling change. I second it.
Awesome. Then all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Seeing none, we approve the minutes as they are with that one name change. We haven't scheduled our next meeting. I would like to propose switching from Tuesdays, and since Mary can't go most days anyway, to either Wednesdays or Thursdays. So 2 weeks from now would place that on the 28th or 29th, and Denise should be back by then. Any thoughts or conflicts?
I'm out of town on the 29th, but.
So if we put it on the 28th, would you be, or would that be too close to whenever you're headed out of town? Too much to handle?
No, I could do it then.
Okay. Any other people thoughts on the 28th?
I'm okay on the 28th.
I think I'm okay.
Okay. So let's do February the 28th at 7 p.m. For our next meeting, and I will prepare a agenda in advance as normal. So okay. Main topics for discussion are, the next item is Chris Haggerty's survey, and I don't know if he was on. I don't think there was too much more to present from last time. I think we just now can go into the revised site plan from John Linn, unless anybody else had anything they wanted to add to Chris Haggerty's survey.
From Brown's Court, no.
Right, Brown's Court. Okay. If there's nothing, then, and I'll let you know, I can barely see kind of the others in the room. I can see Fran very largely for some reason. So I'll look to you, Fran, if there's a question, just kind of like make a hand motion and I'll see that somebody's
What are,
indicated they need some.
can I make the grid view larger?
For some reason, it's showing like Fran is like half and then the room itself as like this narrow segment. So I'm not sure, but it's okay. I'm just letting you know in case somebody's in there motioning.
Yeah.
So then we can move to the revised site plan from John Linn. I saw him come on. John, I also have what you sent out available so I can either share that or you can share, or if you have things you want to talk about. I know that you met with a number of folks from the committee and made some additional changes from our original one.
Sure, I'm fine if you want to share it.
Let's pull that up. So it's got the 2 pages here. So you just tell me where you want me to be.
Sure. I mean, first page, I think it's more or less what we've shown before. It's got the ballpark where it was. I'm calling out some bleachers. I tried generally to not call out sizes or specifics. I expect that'll be in a separate document of sorts, down to the detailing, the pickleball courts, the benches, bleachers, all that kind of stuff. I tried to leave intentionally vague. Bocce ball courts called out. The water on the next page, I've kind of blown up the area around the parking that has the more details around that, this exact sizing of the parking area, to make sure that we're within permitting. Calls out the portable toilet and the screening. I haven't been by the round church yet to get a photo of that. I'm going to dump that up in the number 4 there to show just an example of what that might look like. The water fountain, again, that's an example that came through. My intent is to not dictate this stuff. I'm hoping that the committee does most of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Was there a question in the room? No, somebody said something.
One thing, and that's, I guess, the committee, we have to talk about a table, a picnic table. Is that in there, John? I see benches. I don't know if that's.
There was talk about putting one up by the storage shed. I wasn't sure if it was a picnic table, if it was benches and a picnic table, if that was going to be a budget call.
Yeah, I think
for sure where that was located.
Okay.
I think we talked about between the good possibility right in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, did he get looped into the questions around that manhole, water, sewer line, whatever? And is this this layout still gonna work for that to not cause us to have to dig up a pickleball court if something happens to that line?
Mike and I did get down there this afternoon. It was actually probably around it was around 4:30. We got down there and we just did a quick walk through. We think we're okay, but we're not sure, like if there was a problem with that sewage line, we're not sure like what kind of equipment would be needed to go in there, how much more space they need. But that was our biggest concern. I think it's going to be tight. I think it can be done. But again, we didn't have our tape measures or anything like that. So I think we're going to have to go back.
Whereabouts is that manhole? I haven't gone up there to see, like on this imaging, where would it likely fall? If your guess.
Go up from the parking lot along the east side. And then come in a little bit, right, sort of
where
in
this
the,
bench is?
yeah. It's about, the manhole is about 10 to 15 feet from the hedge line. Okay. And they, the water and sewer employees are really nice about running right up and they mark it in green. Okay. And it lines up with a manhole on Burnett Court.
So it goes this way. The line goes this way.
Yeah, so sewage flows from the school to
Okay.
Burnett Court, underneath Browns Court, to the Browns Court Road, and then goes down to Tilden Avenue.
This way too.
But the,
So it goes all the way across this whole side.
yeah, so it would go
Okay.
under the parking lot, and digging up a parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, is not a major thing.
Not when it's not paved, when it's just gravel.
Right, would be more, the concern is having to dig up a pickleball court.
Mhm.
Would be the concern. The line itself, cause they lifted up the manhole cover so I could look down, and it's probably 5 to 6 feet down to where the actual pipe is that comes across. So when any excavation is done, there shouldn't be any worry. They have to get, whoever does any excavating has to get a permit. I guess they gotta talk to water and sewer in the town, but we're not gonna go down as far as where the pipe is. I did ask Josh late today whether, lots of times when they're doing stuff in town on the roads, they decide, oh yeah, we're gonna be digging up this road. Maybe this is when we replace a pipe. And I just asked him if there were any plans to do any of that, with Brown's Court, with that sewer line, and there was nothing that he knew of. The
Okay.
sewer lines do seem to cause less problems, and it's the water lines that tend to cause problems in the wintertime when they break. So, there's probably less chance that it has to be dug up, but we should be aware of when we're positioning things, if we can.
And it
to
looks like
stay-
we could have a little bit more space here to move this over a little bit if we think it'll mean, depending on where that line falls, at least to me, right?
Yeah,
If you go back to the vertical plan, I think there was a suggestion that the pickleball was held 30 feet off that tree line.
Yeah,
So if the septic line is 15 feet off, 10 to 15 feet off, it seems like we should be in good form there.
and would be, how far away from the pickleball court do you put up a fence? How close?
how far from the pickleball court?
Court, where does the?
Like right here.
I'll have to check with that. I'll have to check that, Fran. I don't think it's much. It's probably about 4 inches, 6 inches maybe.
Oh, so it's right tight to the.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving a fence is, would be minimal, but if having to disturb the surface of the pickleball court would be the thing we want to avoid. And then you can't, there is that manhole cover, and so you have to stay away from that, but a picnic table or whatever could be near there, and that would be fine.
Okay.
And when we get closer, they will, they were kind of eyeballing it today from manhole cover to manhole cover, so when we get closer to doing anything, then they'll have to be, more exact as to where the line is, but they were pretty sure they were, had it pretty close today.
Yeah.
One other amenity that we talked about was a bike rack. And I did get a note back from Justin Mansfield from Pettinelli that a 7-bike serpentine loop rack would be $500, but he's still checking on the shipping cost.
So that's lower than the original number you had sent over, so, right?
Yes, yes, because I guess they have some of these things right in their warehouse. The picnic table have, if we went with these benches and picnic table, it's also lower price.
So that was 600, I believe, per bench. Is what you sent me?
Yes, almost sent to you today.
Yep,
Yes.
and then we were talking about how many benches in the picture? 2? 3?
There's 4 located right now,
4.
one at each end
Okay,
of the
I
bocce,
think
one
that-
at each end of the bocce, and then the 2 over by the maintenance shed, but that's
And then
debatable, arguable, whatever happens.
I don't think I grabbed a picnic table.
Well, here's a price for a square picnic table with 3 benches so that it could be ADA accessible. And that
And that-
price.
Go ahead. I was trying to remember what it was.
The price from Pettinelli again was, $1,480 for a 3-sided ADA table. Now, this is just a square, 3-foot square, but, and I guess we can, I don't know if we want to go with a longer table or just, let this be.
I think we let that be.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And then that table can match the benches.
So, okay, let's pop back to here. Was there any other comments, suggestions that we want to discuss about the layout here at this moment? Obviously, it's not set in stone by any means, but just to make sure we have all of our comments together.
The bike rack would probably go somewhere near the parking lot.
Are you
Sure,
thinking
maybe
on this
between-
side
by the
or
water
over
fountain.
this side?
Yeah,
The water fountain was over here, I think you said.
Bottom left, yeah.
Okay.
Across from the portalette. Just a
Okay.
guess.
That makes sense. Okay. Any other comments, questions, things we want to discuss about this plan? I think it looks really
I've
good.
been showing, next image shows it better. This one has it a little bit, the fencing behind the home plate. I don't know if that exists, if there's a plan for
Yes.
that, or if I should not show that at all.
there is fencing there now.
Okay, perfect.
And what you did show and Josh noted, or once we have the survey, is that the baseball storage shed right now is not on our property.
It's on the property, it's just on the setback, like literally on the setback.
Yeah. I mean, the one where it is existing right now is.
Yep.
And
I think it is. I think it's, Kendra, if you go back one screen.
Right here.
Yep. Bottom edge shows that existing baseball. It's just below the bocce courts. It's on the property. It's just right on the
it's right
20-foot
here.
setback. Yeah, that's on that 20-foot setback.
oh, okay, because Josh thought it even looked like it was on McCarthy property.
Gotcha.
But John, that is moved, like,
moved.
that's it behind the bench, right?
Yeah, I have it
That's
called out as moving up there. Again, that's me guessing. It seemed like a logical place to put it. It's relatively flat up in there in the tree line, tucked out of view, out of the way, but accessible.
I
Probably
think it's
not
a
a big deal
logical
to
place
move
to
it.
have it. Yeah,
Yeah.
have it be closer to where they're trying to be.
Right, and one thing that when we were meeting with John and Denise and we were talking about, you see that triangle? Where the McCarthy's property comes quite close to the field, that when the town starts talking to Linda McCarthy about whatever they have to do to finalize the survey that was, done 10 years ago or more, that maybe it might be nice to see if we could get a little part of that triangle, make a straighter line, give us a little bit more room. It's the triangle poking into the field, right there. And maybe a ravine, but it, cause I was looking to see if there were any markers up there that, survey markers, but I didn't see any the other day. So. Josh has not, done any, of the work that Chris Harity suggested as far as, talking to the town
Yeah.
lawyer and the McCarthys about what didn't get done you know, when the McCarthy's had their properties surveyed, so after town meeting, he will get onto that, but he's too busy right now. And he needs to talk to Chris Haggerty again about so that he can understand what needs to be done.
What it exactly needs to say.
Yeah.
So, okay. So he'll work with Chris Haggerty though to do that, right? We don't have to
Right.
be
Well, I
involved.
think we just have to
Make
keep
sure we're
at it.
prodding. Yeah.
Yes, nicely.
Understood. Okay. So that is the site plan as it sits. And so I don't know that for this next item, other than talk when we get down here and talk about the cost and that discussion, I don't know that there's much more for us to do until after the town meeting day. I don't think that we're going to be able to propose anything until after they hold that. But if anybody feels differently at this point, chime in.
No, I think at some point when we're getting ready to propose there, some of these items, like the $4,000 water fountain, may be nice to have and, you know, a later list. One thing that John did as a result of our talking, whenever we did last Friday or what, Thursday, was put some cedars besides up by the pickleball courts, put a few along the line of, with the Carroll right there.
Yep.
That property. You know, we may not need all those, but since there is gonna be a bocce court there, we hope, to more protection, for
From
the
the noise.
property owner. Yeah.
Any guesstimate on how many trees we're talking in these two lines?
Well, John had 30 trees down,
30 here?
down by the, I can't remember how many up there, but it's probably about 30 up there too.
Okay, so we'll do like
But
60 in our quote.
yeah, then we may not need as many as that once you're actually plotting things out. But that's at 4 feet each, and the supplier where John has used, I did talk to him, and he had recommended the trees and that are fast growing cedars for $45 each. Somebody would have to go pick them up, but he seemed like a really nice guy, easy to work with, so.
I've got
So,
35 trees in each location,
Okay, so 70
4-foot spacing. Yeah.
just for our rough estimates over here. Getting less rough, but okay.
It's not a short trip up there, and at 4 to 7 feet tall, I don't think you'd want to have them in the back of a pickup. It's like someone's got to get an enclosed trailer up there kind of thing.
Okay,
Good to know. So this is $50 with not delivered.
right. Yeah, he actually said $45, I think, but
Okay.
so $50 maybe is good because that might help cover the cost of gas.
Okay. So I think we'll wait and get in more to the costing of it, like you were mentioning, Fran. I think we're gonna totally end up in that position where we're gonna have to start paring back and say, what are the things that are gonna be great to have, but maybe can't do at some point. So I think, go ahead.
Did you get the estimate from Eric Laddensack?
Yes.
Okay, and his, I'm not sure whether John Scott's estimate included doing any work to the entrance
Yeah,
from
I
Brown
didn't
Street.
add it in here because I wasn't sure if they were comparable.
Yeah.
It was hard to tell, and I don't know that I want to post the different
Right.
ones
Correct.
until we can get the other two and then like more randomized per se.
Yes.
On that. So I didn't put it in here yet, but I did receive it from you.
Okay. We just need to know whether John Scott's, quote included some entrance work.
Yeah. And I haven't seen, there's two more I think we were told were pending, and somebody was gonna ask Pete about his cost as well. So I don't think that's what I had for notes anyway.
Right, Megan was gonna ask Pete, I think, and.
Okay, she didn't give
Denise,
me an update.
Denise was gonna ask the Spences and, she had shown what it looked, what needed to be done.
Okay.
I like the bike rack. The quote was provided by Jeannie at last.
At last meeting. At last, she's been waiting on that bike rack forever. Okay, so at this moment, I think we can move from Brown's Court into Volunteers Green.
What?
Sure.
Kendra, one thing, I'm still waiting the plans from Lewis for the bocce courts.
Okay.
I do have 3 or 4 contractors, who have expressed some interest in it. So as soon as I get those plans, I'll get them to them. Okay.
A question
Mary
popped up
Claire.
too. Yep, her question says, would these trees be in addition to vegetation already in place, oak and maple trees on east side, and mixed trees, pine, etc. on the south? My understanding is yes, we are adding these in addition to in order to buffer. Is that
Right, that was my thought. Now, if they don't feel, Mary Claire, Jim, you don't feel you need the buffer, then we don't need to do it, but I was just thinking it might give you a little more protection.
No, I'm fine. I mean, I think sound wise for the, not so much for the bocce. I don't think you get that loud, but I know how loud pickleball gets. And I think the buffer trees are a good idea. I was just trying to visualize it and see, I was just trying to see whether it was an addition to the trees already there. Because I thought I heard John say something about them being 10, 15. How big are they going to be to start with?
4 to 5 feet, it would be the
Oh,
initial
okay.
size.
Okay.
And I believe we're still doing putting in here quote for some limbing still. So I think some of the trees that are
Yes.
along some of this is also just going to be cleaned up. But I don't think up here there was any being removed, only some down at Volunteers Green. Is that?
Yeah, correct. Well, up in the corner, the northeast
here.
corner, there was at least one tree that leans over. Otherwise, around the park, it's more limbing up low-hanging dead branches, all the whole perimeter of the park.
Any other questions from people on the phone before we get into moving to the next park, just to ensure we're not missing anybody? Okay. So with that, we can move into talking about Volunteers Green. Fran, was there any update from Chris Haggerty on the survey of the Bandshell area?
No, I did send him an email over the weekend and have not heard anything from him. I do have a phone number, so I can try to call him tomorrow.
Okay. Because yeah, I think Denise gets back the 24th or something. She was the one originally kind of communicating with him, but but until then, before our meeting, she won't be able to do that. Okay. So nothing on that right now. And so that kind of leaves some of the discussion around the overall park layout a little up in the air. So I think we should move to looking at the costing and
And I have a playground update too, or discussion.
On the layout, there was this, you probably saw the big long thing on the front porch forum about the path, and I'm not sure how much we can really do much about it right now, but we should look at that a little, and then I guess just before I left to come down here, my husband told me that Rod West had also posted
Yes.
something about the path, and I didn't, it was too long for me to read as I was heading out the door, so I think we'll have to have more discussion on, a path.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that I think that it's gonna come down to the numbers anyway. Like, to be honest, like in my opinion, there are other things that we might have to prioritize
Right,
anyway. Especially, I was gonna go to Jeannie somewhat about any update from, I know we don't have an update on the VORAC grant or anything like that, but I think we're
Right.
having to somewhat plan as if we're not getting it in our budget. And I think my proposal to the committee would be, when we start getting down to final numbers, is that we have numbers as if we don't get that, and then backups. If we do get the money, these are the next projects that we want to use that money for. Do you know what I'm saying? That additional
Yeah.
100,000. If we get the VORAC money, then it puts 100,000 back in our bucket, and I think we come prepared and have those already outlined, so that then the money still stays with the park.
correct.
Yep.
That's,
I think that's right.
yeah. Just, like with Brown Sport, these are the things we absolutely wanna do. These are the things that would be nice to do, and same with volunteer screen and, we have to plan the overall cost for the playground.
So, Jeannie, do you want to talk about a playground update?
Yeah, so, last meeting that I was here, Fran, when we talked a little bit about, was it time to look at least choose, playground rep? And I just didn't want to answer right then because I wanted to talk to the rec committee first, because they, the playground is kind of their baby. So we talked about it. I'm recommending that, we go with Pettinelli, Miracle, Justin, Mansfield, as much because, he's worked with Pete Gosselin for the last 20 years, keeping this playground updated. When I sent him an email, I sent all three people an email about, we're just putting this on hold for a little bit, looking to see the plateau. And he says, well, yeah, I walked with Pete. I walked over that plateau area with him. And so anyhow, he's just been involved here with Richmond for a long time. He's also had suggestions. He was the only one of the three that suggested a way that we could use the mats that the town has, use those as a border. The other two certainly didn't want to do that. His price was right. He included everything: the demolition, the site prep, the installation, the engineered wood fiber. The Quorum did not include the demo or the site prep. They said they would provide the whatever needed to the town to do that. Land shapes, I couldn't find. Well, they provided a dumpster, but I'm not sure that the whole demolition was in there. The interesting thing, then I started looking a little bit, this engineered wood fiber, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it was almost like
Your quote, I think I have it here.
well, wait a second, I probably have right here, I compared the three. And of course, do I have that right here? I do. But over here. Well,
I
anyhow,
only have
there
two
was,
of them.
it was almost a $10,000 difference. I couldn't figure out how that was. Unless one was, here we go. Miracle for the engineered wood fiber, $4,320. Land shapes, $12,240. And, the Quorum, which was expensive all the way around, $25,900. So I don't know how they're comparing, because they didn't have how much square footage that was. But anyhow, it just made me think, okay, he could source this locally. The other thing about Pettinelli, a lot of the things will be, many things are in the warehouse, so then that there will be shipping on at least, some of the things. So I think that right in itself will reduce
Mhm.
a lot of costs. He had included table and bench repair for the benches that were in the park, resetting those. He included in his price a 3-sided picnic table. And his price was 100,000 compared to 238,000 compared to, I'm sorry, his was 191,000.
Yeah.
But anyhow, his was lower than both of the others by,
And included more.
You know,
and included more.
yeah,
And he also was the only one that even showed any interest in wanting to work with, volunteers, because I asked all 3 of them that question. The land shakes person was, oh, no, we can't do that with liability, that just wouldn't be happening. Copham said, oh, you want professionals to install the playground. Justin says, oh, I love it, those weekend builds with volunteers are a lot of fun. He goes, I go home with a headache, but they're really a lot of fun. So, I mean, he was, I think whatever we wanted to do, he would be the person to work with. So that is, the other thing is that he was also highly recommended by the principal at Richmond Elementary, Kendra, the principal
King.
from King, Pete Goslin, even Jeff Forward had mentioned to work with Pat Nelly. So I'm thinking, that is just the way to go.
I agree. I liked the look of it. I had concerns over, I only saw the land shapes one and the I only received those 2,
Yeah.
but the land shapes ones, I felt like I was concerned. Let me see if I can pull it up. They had these where was the images of them? These, I don't know what they were, like flag looking thing. I don't know, these things that I was like, these look like they'd be a
Yeah.
problem. I don't know. To me, they just
Yeah.
look like that would be a problem.
So.
And I know it won't
noticed-
necessarily look exactly like how they outline them if we
Correct.
switch locations, but just in general as like an overall, I kind of was like, yeah, I kind of liked the layout, like I don't know, way it functioned, I guess.
And I think the local, we'll be able to tweak that design easier with someone who's local, who can come and look at this and, we know we're gonna have a different footprint. I have several ideas about, ways that I would change that structure right now, but
This long,
it's not
you were
worth
talking about this
getting
long thing.
discussion. Yeah, right. It won't be that. I would think it would be more of a circular kind of thing. I'll have to tell you something very interesting. I met with kids from the Mansfield Co-op Friday to look at the playground. So they're the kids that go to school in the bottom of the Congregational Church. So they use that playground every single day. So they were all excited when I asked if they wanted to give me some input. And their observations, what they really wanted was to have a playground that was accessible and to be able to use with little kids. But they said, but ramps aren't the only way to be accessible. And that ramps, you just run up and down and there's nothing to play with. But, and I thought that's exactly, what I was thinking. But here were these, 10 and 12-year-olds, they had their list, they were prepped. They were really, really excited about some of the things. They told me, I thought these music things were great. And they all said, oh yeah, people use those once and then never go to them again. But the interesting thing is their biggest request were the bathrooms. They went non-gender specific bathrooms. And they just went on about how scared they are to go to the bathrooms back there when they are open, how they can't even get the doors open, how it's, just. So anyhow, that is just something to be really aware of. But they were, again, talking about this double tower, which is something that Kirsten from the rec committee had mentioned, that can a grandparent get up there if a 3-year-old gets up there and is stuck and you're afraid to come down?
It looks similar to the one in Essex, and theirs is 3 tiers, and an adult can get up there. They can.
Did you say they can?
They can, yeah. I've had to do it. I have a 3-year-old, so.
Well, no, but more like, could I do it? If I needed, if I'm taking my grandchild.
It's generally a standard ladder, like with rungs. So if you can go up a standard, like runged ladder. That's what it is.
But you just have to hear this, because this makes, this just, it was a good thing for Richmond to know. So they were talking about this and they said, what about little kids getting scared because they climb too high and grandparents can't reach them? And this other girl says,
That's
well,
adorable.
Richmond is such a caring community, anyone would help them get down. And then this other kid says, yeah, but what if the grandma was there all by herself and she couldn't climb it? I mean,
That's
I thought
adorable. I
it
love
was
it.
just sweet, you know, these kids were truly thinking.
And it sounds like thinking about not just what they would like, but what about
Right.
somebody else who isn't at the same ability level. That's great.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
really appreciate that you got that input. That I
have
love
2
it.
pages of notes from them, and I promise that when we find out where the playground will be, that I'll come back and talk to them some more. Another thing, they really wanted to have, earth tone colors. I mean, and that would be my choice too. But I can share more, and, you know, we'll tweak the design and then, when we find out
Where we're
it's
gonna be.
So what would be all accessible, but not a ramp?
Oh, like more things just around the edge. I don't know, can I use my?
Like more things, like I think they were talking about the last time she said like
here, like nets or climbing structures, or like here, this is something.
things on
that
the
all kids
outside.
can
See,
go
like
in. You can have, there's some ropes that I just don't know, again, how that would go with the,
like this has a thing on the
the
outside.
floodplain. But yeah, this, like, it wouldn't
You
have
had
to
more
be
things on the outside that you could get from
as
the outside, like
lines.
play with.
Yeah, and also remember, ramps are the most expensive piece on this playground. For every, I think I have this right, for every 1 inch of elevation, you have to have 10 feet of ramping. So that's why the ramps are so long. So, you know, even if one of those was
I was just
eliminated,
curious
and we
how
can
they
make
did it
it
on this one.
more,
To get to a slide, you still have to
yeah,
go up.
So I mean, you
somehow.
want to have some of that.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing to keep in mind is that, I mean, there'll be a few people who use wheelchairs, but there'll be a lot of kids who have mobility issues and visual impairment issues, so to be sure, there's just things for all folks. And I think, I know that Megan also had some other ideas about the 2 to 5-year-old structure. And, so I know there would be, well, I guess I'm just saying we're gonna have to tweak it when we find out where the actual space is. Justin, to me, would be the one that, he's right here. So I don't know if I don't know how to, do we need a motion to do that? Do we just say this is?
I think maybe we all say, do we all agree that that is the company we're going to use for our recommendation in budgeting purposes is for this time? Is that fair? Is there anybody, we have 4 people, so we have a quorum. Does anybody oppose making a selection at this time for the playground company?
No, I think at some point when we get to saying to the select board, this is what we want to do, you'll have to, we have 2 other companies to say that we did get other quotes.
Yeah.
But
And
it's,
here's why we chose, and that's kind of why I typed up my rationale even, so that we could have that to go with those quotes. And that was my other question is, did I just save those myself?
Your note, you can send them to me. I can build them into this PDF packet that you see me flipping through. That's where I'm putting everything that anyone is sending to me. And it's all in your categories as to what, like all the playground stuff is all here as bookmarked, and I can add it in here. And then when we start to put together the presentation and the final quotes and things like that, we'll want to figure out, you know, obviously you will present the playground piece in conjunction with if we want support from the rec committee, but
yes. I guess I'm thinking just the 3 quotes. Did I already give those to you?
you gave me 2. I have miracles and I have land shapes. I didn't get the third one.
Okay, I'll send that to you.
And then I can add it in here as the 3. And then you'll notice in the quote in this costing document, I write down the one that we've sort of selected, and generally it's based on cost or what they're doing. And then I write over here in this column F, any additional quotes. So I'll write the one that we've picked, Miracle, and list the other two over here with their prices to show that we consider two more companies.
Okay,
Is how
great.
we've done
That
it.
sounds good.
So, okay. Anything else you want to update us on from your rec committee meeting with them?
Yes, but I want to go back to the playground first.
Okay,
again.
go ahead.
So I should go ahead and contact Justin and say, you know, we want to work with you and let the other two folks know that.
Do you want to, I guess we could do a quick formal vote. You know, you make a motion and somebody seconds and all those.
You want me to make the motion, so it's,
I guess
Sure,
I
you can
shouldn't
make-
make the motion, but.
yeah, you should, because you're the one more.
You're the one presenting it to us.
Oh, okay.
You're the more,
And
then-
most knowledgeable.
Well, I made the motion that we go with Justin Mansfield from Pettinelli Miracle for building the playground, and I guess that's it.
I guess maybe the
What I needed.
the
For a
motion should be
recommendation.
that we continue to work with him.
Yeah.
Because we
We don't
We
make the
can't-
final
we
decision.
can't go with, telling him we're gonna finally go with him until we
Right.
get
Oh, yeah.
outside approval.
So I should make a motion that we continue to work with Justin. From Pettinelli, Miracle, to further develop the playground at this time.
Yep.
Is that
Yep, that's good.
enough?
Yep, I think.
Yeah, I think that's good. Somebody want to second it?
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Seeing none, that motion is passed. And okay, so that's the playground piece. Did you have anything else on the playground or anything from the rec committee? I guess that's where we're at next. Jeannie, is any update from that?
Right, well, no, just the fact that I had talked to them quite a bit about this too, and so, you know, they definitely agreed that he would be the person, so, or that they would also recommend him. One of the things they are planning, snowshoe activity, so I think you might have seen it on Front Porch
Mhm.
Forum and, but 3 dates, it's, over the weekend, the first weekend of the school break, so on the Saturday, they're having a snowshoe ramble, they're calling it here at Volunteer Green. And the senior center is providing cookies and hot chocolate. And, they have some activities, maybe some scavenger hunts or some things that they will do. They're hoping for snow, but even if it's not snow, they may still, do some activities, but they have a sign up so that if it's just pure ice, they could let everybody know that it's canceled for the day. The second day is in Huntington at the town forest, and they're gonna do some tree identification walk through with snowshoes. And then the next day, Sunday, is at Bolton at Smiley School. And, after they do some snowshoeing around the area, then they're going to have a person take them out, who's ever interested on a bird walk, bird identification. And they're using snowshoes that they got, they're taking the snowshoes that are at Richmond Library that they got with a grant or maybe last year. So they have a dozen snowshoes they'll take with them from place to place, and they're encouraging others to bring their own and bring some to share. So if you want a snowshoe any of those days,
If there's snow.
you're all welcome.
Yeah,
We snowshoe around here and there's none right now.
Right.
Hoping for them that there's snow.
Yeah.
Did they get a chance to, I saw it on their agenda and I wasn't able to attend their meeting.
Mhm.
Did they get a chance to talk about some of the proposed logistics for like Brown's Court and managing courts and things like that?
Yes, yes, so I think we just kind of continue to have that discussion of how would a shed work, how would you manage it? And they thought that perhaps if there was a lock on the, shed with a code that maybe there'd be quite a few people who have that code, and maybe on the shed there'd be a phone number. If you don't have the code, you could call this phone number to get it. And maybe that is a code that changes every year or twice a year, depending on that situation, and that they could kind of take the lead of that. They talked about maybe what they just need to do is make sure that they just kind of keep track of what's being maintained and what's not, and just to be able to let people know, not that they would be maintaining the bocce court or maintaining any of the things, but so they talked about that as something they probably will include in their next, when they're planning. The same with, they were talking about like the soccer nets that got washed away, that, just maybe somebody just needs to be on top of the soccer league to call and say, hey, it's that time of year, remove the nets, get them up on higher ground. And or, hey, there's a flood coming, go get the nets off right away. Not that they have to do that themselves, but that they could be in charge of letting people know that. So that was kind of that was their.
Did they get into the difference between like pickleball versus a multi-use court and navigating any of the managing of that? Did they have any discussion around that?
Yeah, they did mention they thought that sharing would be a really difficult thing to manage, and how that would work. They certainly didn't want to be in charge of doing that, being the scheduler or planning, but
It's a lot.
we talked a little bit about how the town, or how we just support the softball leagues and the volleyball, or whoever else does, the little league, how they are the ones that they maintain the courts, the fields, and that hopefully at some point there would be some leagues that would do that.
Right.
But
Which is easier to have happen if it's just pickleball versus the concept and the thing that we've kind of kicked around with a multi-use court then there's not going to be one set group. And so then who navigates ensuring that those groups share nicely?
Yes.
And all of the work that entails.
Yes, and if it's shared, how important really good signage would need to be, and even just some good signage was something that they mentioned too. Either way, just about taking care of the courts, sweep the court, do this, do that, just some expectations, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Did they express an opinion on whether they thought we should go with a pickleball court, a multi-use court? Did they express an opinion on that?
Well, other than just saying they know it would be much easier to manage if it were just one, and that we did talk about that a pickleball court would serve, many more people than a tennis court would.
So the rec committee would support us in going with pickleball over multi-use court. I want to ensure that we're hearing the voices of another committee in their opinion.
Yeah, and I do think, go ahead, Mark.
I would just confirm Kendra's interpretation that yes, we think that's it would be pretty difficult at this stage of the rec committee and management to manage a multi-use court over a single-use court, which would have its own responsibilities that we could help out with, but to manage between the two and switching them over and scheduling would be very difficult.
You would potentially have to do like an Essex where there's somebody whose job it is to manage such things. Maybe a part-time job, because I don't know that it would take them full-time status to do all of that, but still more than somebody can do as a volunteer basis,
right,
by far.
Mark, did I answer the other questions accurately?
Sorry, what was that?
She wanted to know if she answered the questions accurately, the other ones that I had posed.
Oh yeah, no, she nailed it. Yep.
Okay. I appreciate Jeannie, you attending, and Mark, of course, attending ours as well. I do think it's important that we weigh other committees' opinions, and that's why I say if you had a strong feeling that we should be going down, say, the multi-use court, that changes a little bit, you know, the
Yeah.
trajectory of some of this stuff. If we have other committees saying, no, we really don't like the decision you've made, then
I think it's fair to say that the rec committee hadn't really talked about Brown's Court, you know, it wasn't on their radar yet. I mean, truly thinking about a playground was their thing right
Yeah.
now. So I think some of that was just like a little surprise to talk about, but, you know, I think, yeah, they're the recreation committee.
As I was wondering, since we got, you know, some feedback on the path around the park. Has anyone, gotten any feedback that assuming the elevations allow us to do something on the plateau, has anyone gotten any feedback about demolishing the Bandshell and putting a playground up there? Yeah.
I personally haven't heard anything of a negative nature on not wanting to demolish the Bandshell. I think that most people that I talked to were thinking it was a good move to move the playground up.
The rec committee also discussed that with Jeannie, and we also thought it was a strong idea. As a committee, very much in favor of it. I personally voiced a concern about the risk of removing the structure, because once the structure of the playground in the lower level is removed, then it'd be very difficult to go back without some planning, because once it comes out, then it becomes grass, and then, you know, it'll never go back to anything without much more significant effort. Whereas if there's a structure there now, there is. So there's
Well,
that. And then
I think in terms of the floodplain, you may not be able to go back. They may not it may remove that grandfathering or whatever of the structure.
Exactly. So, certainly under the current zoning. So that's a concern that I tried to express, but I'm not sure how popular it is. I think the benefits of, certainly the committee's perspective, the benefits of moving the playground out of the floodway, would be outweighs the potential of maintaining a foothold in of a structure in the floodway.
I have not heard anyone say, oh, we need to save the Bandshell, and that was what I was, you know, wondering whether you've heard anybody that, you know, has
Not on the
their
record.
heart. No, in the community, most people I've asked have said, well, I haven't had great love for the looks of the Bandshell anyway, so, but I just want, the point of putting the posting in we did that explains what we have been working on was to try and elicit, opinions if people have them.
Did you receive any direct responses, like unposted direct responses?
I got several unposted ones that thanked us for the post and thought it was very clear as far as expressing what we were doing, and I thought it was clear about soliciting public input. The post yesterday about the pathway still seems to think that we are not receptive to public opinion. So we'll have to,
Yeah, it seems like unless we do a survey, that's going to be the only thing that's going to appease. And I don't feel like a survey is appropriate when one's already been done.
So,
that's on our agenda, right? That's how to talk about getting some public opinion, so we can.
But as far as the path and all, I think we kind of focusing on Brown's Court and waiting for Chris Haggerty, and then deal with the path or no path further down the line.
Yeah.
John, you've had your hand up. Want to open it up to you?
For what it's worth, when I reached out to the zoning administrator about Bronze Court, I asked him about the change of location on the playground. And the way he's looking at it right now is that it's maintenance. If we replace it in its existing location, he doesn't think it would be possible to move it to the higher ground unless that is outside of the floodplain.
Right,
Right.
I was
Yeah.
hoping that that would be a possibility, that you could move it on the same property and keep the same footprint, but that's not the case. If we're going to replace it, if that space is all floodway, it has to be in its existing location.
and that's, at some point, people are gonna ask if we can't put it up above, do we wanna put it down below? Do we wanna spend the money? That's gonna be a bigger question that, the town, the select board and recreation committee and all are gonna have to say is it still worth putting $200,000 down below?
I will say that there's mixed things that I've heard, John, from that aspect, and so I don't want to throw anything too far out there at this point, but just in terms of potentially there seems to be in other floodplain permittings in that space the ability to move where the envelope sits if it's more amenable to waterways kind of situation. And we've mentioned, I think, a little bit about that garage moving right there in that yellow house is a similar circumstance. So I don't know if that. I think we wait and see if we're out of the floodplain, we don't need to push. If we're not out of the floodplain, then maybe we don't just throw in the towel. We push a little bit further on that.
Yeah, we put in an application. We file for a permit. Then there has to be a lot more, research and discussion with the zoning administrator.
Right. And so I think we sort of wait and see. If we're out of the floodplain, much easier. If not, we go down that road. Because you're right, we are going to get asked at some point. If we're not, then what? Pete has said at these meetings, each flood he's had to spend about $10,000 to re-put that playground back in. I feel like is the number I recall. And so, at what cost is it good to keep putting that? 3 floods this year, 3 times this year, $30,000. So I think we, like I said, wait until we see what Chris Haggerty's survey says, and then revisit that piece.
Yeah.
That was about the front porch. So everything you received, that's pretty much everything you heard comments from.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they were appreciative of us trying to put out before them what we were working on.
They felt like we were looking for public input.
Yes.
Okay.
And I know Denise's front porch forum post was from her relative to Brown's Court, and she said she got a lot of positive feedback on her post relative to the front porch, Brown's Court in our work.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, the next post would be when we have the survey and we can say, hey, focus on Volunteers Green then in the next one, and say this is where, that may address some of the that post that we saw recently. And I don't know if we want to get into public outreach or if we want to get into the costing. We can readjust if we feel like that's appropriate.
Well, I do think we need to talk a little bit about other public outreach. I mean, I guess I'm not sure even, are we gonna do some kind of polling on these plans in the future? Do we want when we're presenting them to the public, do we want to have people rate things that, you know, themselves, like, this is an absolutely must-have, this is not necessary? I mean, or are
I
we
know
just?
in terms of the playgrounds, I believe it was part of your grant that will, or the grant, not
Yes.
your grant, the grant, that will have to happen. So I think we will have to be prepared to do, or us in conjunction with the rec committee, some type of forum to solicit that specifically on the playground, right? In terms of
Right.
saying, okay, we've decided to go with this company, here are some different options within that parameters.
Yep.
You know,
And
what
maybe we can
colors
see-
or what, I don't know what things we can
Yes,
choose, but
yeah, yeah,
that kind of thing. So I think that sort of gets the public outreach, in my opinion, on the playground itself. And then I
right.
think we would need to do something a little bit separate on as an overall.
Yeah,
I personally want to be careful about how we ask for it, in that we're in no way promising, we're soliciting feedback. And
right.
so we still have to have that be doable in the budget and doable in
Right.
terms of the layout and all of those things. And
Yes,
so I want to be very careful that we're not making it seem like it's a open, you know, for them to all decide, or because you're gonna also
yeah,
then get some happy and some not happy.
yes. Yeah, and then, and even I think, when we're doing some kind of outreach for the playground, I would think we could wrap around volunteer green with that too. I think we could
Yeah,
attach,
I
I
think-
mean, because that's a,
One of our, a meeting could be, this is the proposal, you know, we are inviting the public to come and this is, and we're not, this is our proposal that we are planning to bring to the select board, but we're looking for community input to make sure we are heading in the right way. And the same thing with Brown's Court, assuming that we can continue to move forward, that maybe one night it's just to talk about Brown's Court.
mhm,
And these are the things we're thinking, and, you know, there may be people that have thoughts as to how we can even just manage the pickleball courts.
yeah,
And then that would be our outreach. Surveys, you get very little participation. And so they're not really true indicators of what people want.
mhm.
Is there potentially a thought on, I know we normally hold these meetings like during the week, on the evenings, like a time when we would maybe maybe more appropriate that more people would be able to attend, we could reserve the bigger conference room. Just potentially thinking it might make sense to do some type of weekend thing or something like that, but up for people's opinions too, to see what we think would be more attended, and get that more people coming in to, you know, solicit their feedback.
Like, we went to, I think it was a Sunday afternoon tour and explanation of
The
the
town
work,
center.
the town center, and there were like four of us. And the four of us that were part of it, we already knew. Yeah. Pretty much everything, but we just felt, well, you know, maybe there's something we're missing. So I don't think weekends are.
Okay.
Are good, but as the weather gets better, you know, and we have reached out to say, this is the topic we want. We're really inviting the public to come for our meeting. And as, you know, the weather's better, it's gonna be lighter out, we might get more people to come, during the week.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it could be something along the lines of the tour, I mean, it just.
Yeah, we
here's
go
the-
up to
here's
Brown's
the chart.
Court,
Well, there
if
you
we
go.
go down to.
Or I was thinking more like charts all
Oh,
over,
yeah.
here's the blow up and here's the, you know, here's what we're planning and.
Well, and I think we definitely post it differently. Like, it won't have a
Yes.
full agenda. It'll be posted as, you know,
Public, a
public
meeting.
outreach meeting to discuss Volunteers Green, to discuss
Yeah.
Browns Court.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think it's the most appropriate to separate them. I think it'll take too long to do them both at the same one, but
Right.
if we want to actually give people the opportunity to talk
Mhm.
and ask questions and propose things.
So back to Volunteers Green, in some of our every weekend, my husband and I and our son, we try and do something different. And so 2 weekends ago, we were in Essex Center at where their swimming pool is, and there was a gazebo that was kind of octagonal shape. So I was making note of that. And then this past weekend, we were walking the Burlington Bike Path, and I think near where the Flynn Avenue School, or not Flynn Avenue, but Flynn School, there's a part near there that had a different kind of pavilion. And so I'm just sort of looking at, if possible, what kind of simple pavilion would work on
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah, good to be thinking about that. Another thought I had about after the front porch forum, another good audience would be the senior newsletter.
Mhm.
Because that reaches many, many people who just wanted to put almost that same update in the senior
true.
newsletter.
Yeah,
That reaches many people.
Did you post it to
I sent it into the Times 8.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the people, there's a lot of people that don't care to be digitally, up to date. They're not interested in emails and the web. So the paper should get those people.
Mhm.
And I think when we get closer to, we can do some kind of flyer that we can have around as well. I'm sure like
Mhm.
Dan Noyes would let us put something up at the market and at the hardware store and the library and the town center, the post office,
Mhm.
post them around too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we can't really plan on when that's going to be quite yet, because again, we have
No.
too many moving pieces on both of these. And I think we want to be prepared to we need to have our budget as a whole a little more squared away before we can do even one.
Right.
Because we don't want to then have to be like, oh, we said we thought we were going to do this, and then we had to take it back because we didn't have enough money.
Right.
So that's my thoughts, is we sort of we can't even necessarily post the Browns Court one quite yet until we have it both squared away or what have you.
Yeah. And is the the round church green pretty much set?
Well, as far as, other than, if we were, and I think that's really a nice to have a fence, the fence, I'm not sure we're gonna have any money for that, but I think, the tree trimming and, work on the grass, and you have a couple of benches, I think that's pretty much all we would do there.
Oh, I don't think
So-
I didn't add in your benches.
Well, he said like one more bench.
Yes, I did send that to you, right, Kendra?
Okay. I believe you did, but I
Okay,
didn't add it in here.
yeah, it was a picnic table,
And a bench.
and a bench. And I don't know if I need to include, I'm still haven't gone to Vermont Paint to
Oh,
talk with them about
yeah.
it. I don't think we need to include the
No.
price of a gallon of cleaner.
no,
And I have somebody who's so excited to help scrub the benches, so.
really? All right. But yeah, it would be nice to know how much over $450,000.
Yeah. And that way, some of these things, we might not have to put much more energy in.
Yeah.
They're on our wish list.
I think I had the benches. They were pulled it up. You had them for the playground. Were these the same ones?
Okay, no, this would be a recent quote from Victor Stanley
Okay.
Bench Company.
I didn't have any noted. in the
Okay,
file.
I have an actual quote, so I will.
Okay.
I'll send that to you. I don't think I made a copy of it. I think I just have
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I'll get it to you. The benches match what are already there. The table. Close match to what is there, but it's the same type of wood.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, we still need size, for the concrete bases.
Yes,
Right, we need to get some quotes on,
Hmm.
for concrete bases at the Round Church and actually up at Brown's Court.
mhm.
So if you can figure out
Okay,
some sizes, then I
Yes.
can get,
she did not send me the sizes, but she said, when we choose the bench, she'll let me know how big the base should be. I will send the 929 email to her.
And then we'll need one up here too, so I'll add.
Yeah, I didn't think about Brown's Court, because we definitely want that, to be honest, in that,
yeah, we want them anchored.
yeah.
I'll always remember when we put the benches at the Volunteers Green, and within a couple of weeks, 2 of them were in the river.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, I think the only item is if we want to get into this, we're at 8:15. If we want to get into this costing and start looking at some of this, and if it triggers us to know we need more prices for certain things, we talked pretty extensively last meeting about the Browns Court prices. Not that those are set in stone or by any means, but just clearing up what items were still remaining. We just added a few more, as well as Round Church. A lot of the Volunteers Green, though, sort of is this, I put it here as depending on what we decide we're doing with both the bandshell and the playground.
Right,
You know, we had
Right.
quotes here on the flower bed and the
yeah.
bandshell replacement beams and things like that,
Mhm.
that we kind of can't quote out
Even,
yet.
even looking at all the benches that are there and what would we wanna move, what stays.
Right.
Those are things that I think we wanna keep down there in the green.
Yeah,
while they're there.
Mhm.
Yeah, because if we move them, then we've lost them.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that can be, and even another thing to think about is to keep maybe those ones that are the swing
swings
sets
down that-
can still
yeah,
stay there
yeah.
and put some others up above if we.
Yeah.
So, but that can all be, yeah, I don't know that we can know what we're doing yet, so.
Yeah. So I want to mention that following our meeting, Josh had sent updated numbers on both the fields and things. So those are
Mhm.
reflected in this, and so they're quite a bit lower because they are able to get FEMA to pay for some of the work, and so that was part of Rod West's post that you hadn't quite read, was talking about that the baseball fields needed some work, and so I do want to emphasize that that is something that has been mentioned as needed, and this is the kind of his final estimate, which, like I said, includes the fields itself is the first number for each of the three ones. Then, so $5,000 for each of them for their field work, $12,000 for fences. And Josh said that that was kind of a wiggle room number, that like if we wanted to just replace certain pieces that needed work, obviously this is to replace the fences. The backstops, I think, my understanding. And then I only added stuff with the dugouts at 2,500 for the dugouts that already exist, and doing some type of upgrading on those to have them drain properly, so that water doesn't get trapped in them, is what Josh was proposing in these numbers. So that's what gets you to the 56,000. Similar concept was used for the Browns Court one up here with the softball. This one doesn't have the assistance of FEMA, right? Because it didn't get flooded. So it has the 30,000 for the field itself, and then 12,000 for the fencing. And so we didn't budget into this any dugouts or things like that. And again, if we wanted to just like fix up the fences that are there, then we take that down from the 12,000.
Yep.
Mhm.
Is that the fields down below got a lot of grass and stuff in them, whereas the Browns Court field maybe needs some work, but,
Yeah.
the fence, but it's not, it didn't suffer like the other
Right,
ones
It
did.
didn't get beat up. So those are the numbers we currently have sitting in those two pieces are from Josh, and his estimates of those. I just have around 200,000 for now, Jeannie, on the playground, just for a
Yep, I
flat
think that's,
number.
yeah,
And so without, you see there's a lot of still yellow spaces. So anything to do with a pavilion or updating of the bandshell is still yellow. Benches down at Volunteers Green. I don't have in here the benches for, but Brown Church, those concrete slabs, and then the parking lot number isn't in here. That's a big number. And we don't have a bleachers number. As of right now, the numbers I'm pulling for these totals, so this total for Browns Court includes the greater of the multi-use court and the pickleball court for right now. And then when you get all the way down here, our total is sitting here at 609, as we currently sit. Again, without
total all
anything with the
three.
bandshell really, and yes, for all three. Without anything really for the bandshell and without the parking lot up at Browns Court.
Mhm.
So as Fran was saying, there will have to be some kind of cutting back.
Right, there's a message from John Linn. Oops.
Yeah, John said for the screening trees at Browns Court and the tree at the round church, is it worth including the cost to install and water them for the first year? Or is that something we want to put in this maintenance column, which is over here to the right? Thoughts on that? And so that's the other piece that Jeannie, that I'm maintaining over here. You weren't at the last meeting where I shared this. I've also got maintenance for each and every item and what the maintenance that would be needed and the frequency of said maintenance. And so as we go, and it's only maintenance on, we'll say, additional items or things that it doesn't include things that they should have been doing in some instances that they weren't, to be clear, because that's not we may put it over here as a comment, like this one, where every 3 to 5 years baseball needs to do this. They're already doing that, is from Josh. So we didn't include it in terms of our bottom line maintenance because we included that as new maintenance from the projects. But we did include those numbers in terms of a note of them in case they wanted to use this to create a rec budget of how to maintain everything. Just to explain kind of how this is working a little bit, because that was asked of us to do, is to provide maintenance information.
Gotcha.
A missing piece is how much labor we can get from the town for like, say, the parking lot. And I think Megan was going to talk to Pete about that. And if we're going to demolish the bandshell, how much can we get from the town, from town labor, which would reduce, could possibly reduce some of the costs. But we probably won't know that until we get a lot closer and say, this is what we want to do.
Same thing with the pickleball court, the Vermont resurfacing. When I was calling around, I accidentally called the contractor that they use for leveling and stuff, and he did say that he'd be willing to work with town people as a way of reducing costs.
Okay.
So that might depend on what kind of summer, or whenever, like whenever we're ready to install, what else has happened this past summer. Probably we wouldn't have been able to get them up very much, but.
And I think those hours really depend on what projects we choose to do. Some of them are one time with minimal maintenance, we'll say, like upkeep from Pete's hours perspective, whereas other ones will be like, if we do the path, that's going to be plowing every time it snows and, whatever else. So that's sort of a difference in terms of how
Right.
many hours and what does hours look like.
Yes. Yeah.
For consideration. And I think that we can only propose those things. I don't think that we in any way have a say. We can say, hey, this is the lowest, most reasonable option for us to propose to you, but you have to, whoever, in charge of Pete has to decide if he has sufficient time to do those things plus his current job.
And my question to Josh was going to be that when Pete, if say Pete were to build us a parking lot at Brown's Court,
Mhm.
does any of his time, and you would think the material, at least the materials would come out of our ARPA money, you would think.
Right.
Do the employee's time get charged to ARPA?
He
Or is he
he
just part of
explained, I think in a previous previous meeting, that in this instance, no, they wouldn't be charged to ARPA. It was in the FEMA stuff with the work that required for FEMA as a federal reimbursement, but that the town didn't necessarily have to charge us back for hours spent by town
Okay.
employees, that they freed up Pete by hiring somebody to mow the grass and things to have him be able to do these type of projects. That was the answer I received, but obviously that could change, right? I don't know. If we're saying we're going to want a lot of hours, then maybe that changes. I don't know. So yeah, this is where we currently stand with the budget. I don't know if folks want to in any way today get into kicking things over to the considered column that is then no longer being considered so that we narrow things a little bit, or if we want to maintain all of the things like this until some future date. And if there's anything specific that people want to consider for that.
I think I'd feel more comfortable if Denise was here.
Yeah.
Okay.
More people were here.
That's fair. So
Maybe.
were there
But-
other questions that people wanted me to address or put into here to make it easier to have such a conversation in the future? Or does this look like it would have the information you're needing?
I think that's a good start. Well, it's more than a start, but can we get access to that, like to look at it on
Yeah.
our own before the next meeting?
That would be great.
And then I, might say, okay, like my
Sure.
thought is a
Yeah,
water.
if you let me know, we'll say if we're doing a meeting on Wednesday, if you let me know before the weekend, like so that I have the weekend to kind of make any tweaks, just if it's to make it easier for you to look at or more information. I would say, let me see if we have anything that you guys are sending me quotes on that I should add in here before I send it over. No, I don't think there are anything. The benches and the picnic.
Yeah, the round church
These two
benches,
pieces.
that's-
So if you send those over in the next day or two, I can add those two pieces in and then send it. And if people have thoughts or things that they think I should add, especially in this maintenance side, I sort of put in here comments that I had about it, and then yellow on things that I just didn't know what the cost would be or what that would look like. So you can all share your thoughts to me directly, just me, and I will try and incorporate all of those as well for the next meeting, if that's agreeable to everybody. As a reminder, do not CC everybody on comments or points of discussion. Okay. That leaves us with, I think we've covered pretty much everything on our agenda unless there were things that people wanted to provide an update on or comment on or anything like that. So I open it up again for either public comment or committee comment.
might wanna check with Duncan to make sure that there's a room available on,
Wednesday's, I think was easy enough, but I will email Duncan the next meeting date
Yeah.
and ensure that he felt that that was
okay.
open enough to do it. And then at that next meeting, I think we should, especially if we have Denise and more folks, we should schedule out a couple meetings. It tends to be a little bit easier to navigate, to do 2 or so forward. So I will email him. Any other comments, questions, things for discussion? I don't see any in the chat. I don't see any hands raised on the screen. So if there is nothing further, we can call the meeting at 8:30. As Denise would like to give me a hard time about that, she's going to call the meeting at 9. I called it at 8:30.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Smart.
Seconded. Somebody said something, yeah.
No, I just said well done.
Mhm. All
We
right.
sometimes
we're
have
done.
some long ones. Okay, thank you all, and talk to you again soon. And I will send that email in a couple days when I get that information from Jeannie.
I just sent it to you, I hope.
Awesome. I will look for it.
Good night, all.
Oh,
Night.
good night.
Thank you.